Okay, so here's the deal. The popularity of Adrascal has been steadily declining now since about episode 10, and it shows no signs of improving. So in a desperate ploy to get subscribers, I'm going to try my hand at reviews, because ripping off people is all the rage nowadays. At first I thought I'd do things like game updates, but when Skychi returned from his recent escapades, I naturally assumed he'd covered that front, and with his surprisingly unentertaining Easter event review, I could see I was totally right. So I asked myself, what do I most like about RuneScape, and before I'd even scratched my head, I clicked onto the quest tray. Now, I realised that a lot of quests are far too out of my reach for me to even consider reviewing, but I was reassured when many people at least 15 levels higher than me revealed that they had about 100 less quest points than I did. So where to start? I didn't want to wait until the new quest to be released, as I live in constant fear of not being able to do new quests. So I went back about a month or so and plucked out 2 quests that at least perked my interest, and I thought I'd review them despite the fact a lot of you have played through them already. These quests by name are of course Glorious Memories and Tale of the Muspah. Glorious Memories revolves around Chief Brunda Terelica, the charismatic leader of the Fremennik tribe. In the quest, the player must prepare for the chief's birthday party. Easy enough, I thought. I'll have to get some food, some decorations, maybe fight off a horrible pudding-stealing goblin, but no. Instead, it involves stitching back together people's relationships, as if that's never been done before. However, I'm always willing to give shit a chance, so I played on and watched the nice cutscenes that followed, each one taking an interesting slant on the character in question's viewpoint. It did make me wish, however, that I hadn't played through all the decent Fremennik quests quite so long ago, or I might have been able to identify with some of the characters other than King Vargas, but okay. A nice graphical improvement on the Yeti he's turned into, by the way, but it seems a little wasted to me because, spoiler warning, he becomes human at the end of the fucking quest. Aside from that, the quest was interesting and innovative, with a nice boss fight at the end and a strange chance to see all the characters from around the Fremennik Province in a different light. It features Asleaf from the Mountain Daughter quest, although it took me to the end of the quest to figure out it was her, as I did that one about a year ago. Some random mage chick joins the party in the Fremennik who, in case you're not up to date with these sorts of things, despise magic, take her on board more than uncannily quickly. Anyway, it turns out eventually that, spoiler warning, she's Baba Yaga, whoever the fuck that is. I haven't done the Luna quest, so that was a bit lost on me. The boss fight was nice, but a bit of a cop-out and wasn't really difficult, but getting to the bastard was, because all of the annoying little NPC nuisances trying to rip my nipples off from across the other side of the cave. It wasn't very shocking, as I believe it was supposed to be, to find out that Niall was indeed dead and that he was indeed a Yeti. The quest didn't really make us attached to him enough for it to be a really sad moment, although I did find myself gasping as I saw his hulking form approaching from the other side of the cave. Then, upon killing him with unusual ease, I felt slightly unsatisfied. Not to worry, though, because the quest isn't over. I still have to cure Vargas of his ailment. I expected when he told me that I had to cure him that it was surely an empty statement, because RuneScape has a habit of leaving things as they are, which is why I'm always shocked when an NPC disappears or changes, but hey-ho, let's go and get that potion anyway. I went to Asleaf's pool and asked her for a potion to change a Yeti back into a human, and for some unknown reason she knew how to, telling me to get near it in a diamond route, blah 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 blah, and upon returning to Vargas I still expected it to be ineffectual, so I didn't pay much attention. To my surprise, however, his Yeti form disappeared and was replaced by a rather attractive human King Vargas. I was so surprised that my monocle fell off and I spat tea all over the computer. That's a lie, but it was unexpected nonetheless. I felt a little betrayed at first, because over the years I've grown fond of huggable Bigfoot Vargas. Since he's an over-aggressive warmongering bastard, I felt I could relate somehow, and also that he's going to marry Queen Sigrid of Exeteria, which would have made some interesting hentai to say the very least. However, when I thought about it, this did seem to raise some interesting ideas that could further be incorporated in new quests, so I walked away feeling fulfilled after all. The second quest I'm here to talk about is the illustrious Tale of the Muspah. When it was released, it seemed like an interesting prospect, and I jumped at the chance to discover dark secrets of one of the most fearsome races to ever walk Gielinor. I'd been reading up on RuneScape history because I'm a sad-act like that, and I made a few educated guesses as to which of the fearsome races of RuneScape that was, but the quest was still interesting, and it did indeed give me a chance to find out more about the spoiler warning Majorat. The quest takes place once more in the Fremennik Province. Apparently Jagex have been holidaying in Norway recently, and begins with you helping a young boy called Urjok to pass his Fremennik trial, just like in Royal Trouble, and I'm now beginning to wonder if Fremenniks are all they're cracked up to be if their children are such pussies, by helping him thaw out a creature called a Muspah from a block of ice. With a needlessly difficult and eye-stabbingly frustrating puzzle involving flaming ships that left me twitching and thinking the rest of this quest had better be pretty fucking good. I was beginning to think this quest wasn't worth the bother, only to find out I had to travel to the fucking Caridian desert to uncover a statue of a creature that, spoiler warning, doesn't actually exist. Not in the mood to fuck about with water skins and the like, I ran into the desert fully armoured and brandishing my dragon halberd, shouting, "Get the fuck out of my way, you camely bastards." In hindsight, however, the water skin might have been a good idea, as I had to end my journey tiptoeing through the desert going ow, ow, ow. So, after a nice chat with Ali the Wise, I discovered that my quest was in vain because the Muspah doesn't actually fucking exist. I rushed back to the Fremennik Province to tell Eryolf the news and then proceeded to thaw the Muspah out. Enter Jarlan the Marjarat. He's basically the same as all the other Marjarat you encountered during the game, a skeletal bastard with a messiah complex who thinks he's better than you. But I ended up warming to him anyway when he explained his situation, and I was able to get my knowledge fix and add that information to my already vastly oversized stock of RuneScape folklore. The rewards were a pitifully frugal helping of experience that was barely enough to spread onto a small sea biscuit, but that's not what I did the quest for. So, in summary, glorious memories. If you want the magic and the herblore experience, then go for it, but if you have the required levels in both of those to do the quest, then the experience reward isn't going to help you that much. Tale of the Muspah, do it, but only if you're doing it for A, the quest points, B, the delightfully insightful RuneScape history lesson, or C, because you're a masochistic bastard who likes frustrating puzzles. Unless you use a guide. Or you can solve puzzles easily. Or you have an IQ higher than 16. Where's my monocle?